willing to sort of bring us on and at least give us, I would say, a modest, middle-of-the-road approach. You know, it's shocking to me, NPR, Democracy Now!, places that I've listened to for a very long time, will not give us the time of day. However, Thom Hartmann has done two amazing, we did a TV spot with them and then did 2 hours on his radio show. So there are people out there that are still journalists. They're just few and far between. And that is, I think, the most disturbing part of this entire experience for me, is the realization that we no longer have free journalism or media in the United States of America, and that, if you look at what Thomas Jefferson said about it, is the end of a democracy. If we do not have free press, able to investigate stories, ask appropriate questions of our government, of our industries, then we are hanging in the balance at the end of democracy, and I think that's what we're really looking at right now. I think that's what facts represent, and we've got to stop it right now.
What time are you on Fox tomorrow? These two guys catch Fox tomorrow.
I don't know.
Okay, you're going to have to watch Fox all morning tomorrow because they're going to be on. Okay? Lady in the middle.
Yeah, hi, thank you for a wonderful movie. I just wanted to make a first comment because he said he recovered from autism. I'd be interested in hearing what his experience is. Now I want to make my comment. I am really surprised with the whole issue because when we were growing up, I can count the number of vaccines I had on one hand. I mean, it was so few. We got the mumps, we got the measles, we went to touch my friend's spots, we got the chickenpox. What's the problem with these illnesses? So I don't understand what caused it to become an issue. That's my first question. My second is a comment. Randy Vaughn in this movie has started LearnTheRisk.org. He wants money right now to put up billboards and signs in California so that kids can go to school, because right now there's a huge homeschooling organizing going on in California because parents do not want to vaccinate their kids and make them sick like this. So we want to overturn SB 277.
Go to that website, support Randy, please. This is the moment. This is the time. It will not come again. Okay? And it is great to see that boy back there looking so good. Fantastic. This lady, which one, sorry? You already had a question. Don't be greedy. Okay, you get another question.
Okay, so my second question is also a medical science question. Surprise, surprise. I made the mistake of telling my dad about the African American effect, and I said I think it might be because of vitamin D, because of the color of their skin, they get less vitamin D in the sun. It might be a causal factor. And he just shrugged it off. He goes, well, then give everybody vitamin D and keep going with the vaccination program. So I wanted to find out, are you guys making any guesses as to those things that we've talked about that could be risk factors like vitamin D, Tylenol, antibiotics, all that stuff?
You know, we're not, because we're filmmakers rather than if someone else is doing it. That's great, and I know they are. I completely agree with you that vitamin D is likely to be a major factor why people who have the genetic propensity for abnormal vitamin D metabolism in the Horn of Africa can live there with plenty of sunshine, no autism, no word for autism in Somali. They come to Minnesota, and 1 in 28 boys have 1 in 28 children develop autism, where there's clearly their critical levels of vitamin D. Is that the reason? I don't know. Is it a perfectly biologically plausible explanation? Yes, it is.
I also want to clarify that part of the African American issue was just the process of which everything was discovered. So the first thing that was found out by William Thompson, then ultimately Brian Hooker, the same thing, was this African American effect. But I think the isolated autism issue is what we're all looking at. I mean, clearly this isn't just a problem in the African American community, as is seen here in this audience. All of our children are being damaged by this thing, and I don't think we should allow ourselves to think that one group is safe over the other. We are all in trouble. This is something that is growing exponentially in all of our communities. This year alone, roughly 100,000 children born will end up on the autism spectrum. We're growing cities of autistic children. They're going to be autistic adults. And whether you think that affects you or not, financially it's going to bankrupt this country. The CDC says it costs $5 million to raise each child with autism. There's been 1 million children been diagnosed with autism since they said this vaccine was safe. So it's going to destroy our school system, which it already is. You'll watch that most of the honors classes are disappearing as all the money goes into special needs classes. American exceptionalism is hanging in the balance, and our government does not seem to care. Vaxxed is going to make sure that that changes immediately.
You first, then this lady here, yeah.
Hi, my name's Rebecca. I'm a chiropractor, and Andy, I've been following you for a few years now. My heart goes out to so many of you parents who have vaccine-injured children. As a chiropractor and in my community, we've welcomed Andy into our life. He's spoken at seminars where we've brought in thousands of people, and we've been trying to fight SB 2109 with PAN, and then we lost. And he said, all we're going to do is make sure that you get the education through the medical doctor to the parents. And then he went as far as not of you may not know that SB 277, you are now forced, if your child is going to in first grade or 7th grade, forced into having every single vaccination. Right. And we've fought. I've gone to Sacramento. I've seen the parents such as yourself. My heart just absolutely dies when I see something like this. And I appreciate all of you, especially you, Polly. I mean, considering your experience, and I appreciate you coming here, sharing your stories. And a lot of people don't know that they're at the point right now. They're like, what are we going to do with our children? How are we going to send them to schools? I know when I'm a parent, which hopefully is soon, that I'm not going to vaccinate. And a lot of people don't know what to do because the only thing that they have, any recourse, is to homeschool. So on a side note, I actually did finally find a doctor who is willing to sign on vaccination. So, for you to share your story is so extremely important for the public. So I want to say thank you so much for being able to share this with us and the community, because we need it.
I mean, it sounds harsh what I'm about to say, but there is nothing that can be okay to put a vaccine into your child. Having watched this, having watched Billy's story, and the millions worldwide of parents that have had the same experience, whether it's with MMR or whatever vaccination, my advice is to come and live in Texas, because right now we don't have a vaccine issue like you do. I mean, literally, you have to put your children first. I spent so long researching Billy's car seat, Billy's bedding on his crib, what crib he should have. I didn't think twice to look at the insert of the vaccination. And now we know everything we do. There is no excuse. We have to. If you know any pregnant women, please, the best thing you can do, the best gift you can give them is to get them to come and watch this. Because having a vaccine-injured child, I can't think of anything worse. It is horrific. There is nothing okay about it. Billy's had everything taken away from him that he could have had in life. And the future is incredibly bloody bleak. And we've got millions of kids to try and work out how we're going to stop them from being in 4-point restraints with psychotropic drugs. It's the future is horrific. So my advice is to get out of California. Quite frankly.
I live in California. It's part of the reason I got involved in this film, because we've got to stop SB 277. I intend to help crush this incredibly invasive bill. It's amazing to me that anyone that believes in vaccines or does not would ever hand the government control over their own children, which is what we've just done. This is the end of freedom in America. For my friends that have been fighting for gun laws, I wonder what you plan on using it for if you're going to hand your children over to the government. It's really a crazy, crazy time. But when you ask what you can do right now, this is a movement. This moment that's happening with Vaxxed is a movement. But the way that movement works is in theaters. People always ask, are you going to do grassroots? The grassroots has not worked. There's great movies, Bach, Greater Good, Trace Amounts, all use these sort of grassroots approaches and never penetrated the mainstream. We're getting Fox interviews. We know CNN is probably scratching, wanting to get at us. We're going to continue to pick this fight, but it only happens if we fill theaters like you're doing right here. It is so important that we keep filling this theater and making it successful, because we're currently getting calls from theaters all over the country that are stepping out and saying, we want that success, we want that money, we want this in our theater. So I really request that all of you that believe in this film right now, you have to do a couple of things. First of all, go write a real review of the film, since none of our newspapers will do it. And then grab 2 friends. If each one of you brings 2 friends back to this theater and bring them to this theater for the rest of this week, then you will be guaranteeing that other families around the country are going to have a theater open up so they can see it too. And we're going to stop SB 277 because the court of public opinion will change. And the problem we've always had is when we go to our congressmen, there's no stress for them. There's no pressure on them because the people aren't behind it. This film is changing that. We're meeting more and more people every day that come to the theater, pregnant moms, new parents saying, we had no idea there was an issue. Pediatricians, doctors are showing up, politicians are showing up. The film is working, it's changing. Please help us make this a success because that's what's going to change this.
Actually, on that note, afterwards, if anyone's got any time, I'm going to be outside with my brand new iPhone 6, and I would love to get your opinion on what you thought of this film. And I'd love also for any vaccine injured parents, we've got to continue the Hear This Well campaign. At the moment, there's 400 plus videos on, there's way more of us out there. So in 1 minute, if I can just catch you on my phone, I'd really appreciate that.
Thank you. People say, you know, how do we get people to come? Nobody wants to come. I've asked this person, they won't come. I say, listen, do this. Say to them, I will give you $100 to come to this film. If you promise me to be honest and say, after having gone into the film, having come out of the film, I am not a different person. My opinion is not different, then you can keep that $100. I can guarantee that you will save your money. Now, they may not need $100, but it shames them into doing it. It shames them into coming. It is a measure of your commitment. But I do not believe there's anyone in the room who is the same having now seen this film as they were when they went in. So that's what I would do. The lady in the middle, and then there's a